Another 2 minutes, we'll start. Yes, please tell me.
Sir, in the BIOS, there is an option of EFI shell. What is that?
That is another kind of, that is glob loader was there previously.
Yes,
This
sir.
is another way to means load the OS.
Okay, sir.
A new version has introduced. EIF version.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so we'll start now. So last class we have just completed a few things related to introduction of the operating system. So today's class will start with basically the process management. Okay, before going to this process management, well, you can think about one operating system. When operating system is basically a code, yes or no? It is, you can say the whole thing is OS. It is a code. So this code is basically divided into three parts. One is called as the process context. Another one is called as the interrupt context. And another one is called as the kernel context. Yes, what is the meaning of this? Because I told you these are the codes. So this process context are the codes through which a application program, any application program, okay, has to be interact with the OS. Because when any application program interact with this OS, some code must be involved, because same code whatever application program has written, that cannot be directly accessed. Means your OS has to be provide certain code through which this application program can access. So this is called as the process context. And this process context basically what? Through which the application process programs can access the OS. Tell me.
Sir,
Process.
the APIs.
No, APIs are here. No, APIs are belongs to this.
Sir, that system calls.
Very nice. This is called a system. Very nice. Tell me here, interrupt context means what? How your hardware devices. So this is the hardware. Let's take. These are the hardware. What is this? This is what is the code for the interrupt context? Means through interrupt only you can tell to the operating system to do something. Then what is the code here? It is running. बोला था मैं. Trap. No, the trap is a kind of interrupt. It is a software interrupt. For this
Sir,
trap,
it is a vector table there is.
Vector table only tell you what? Vector table tell you what? Correspond
type of the
vector table
interrupt.
tells about the collection of interrupts.
That is what? Your vector table consists of what? Tell me. Interrupt number. This side क्या था?
And the function call.
What is this name called? वो बोला था. वो क्या है? Interrupt.
Service routine.
Yes, service
Hmm.
routine. Very nice. Service routine SAR. This is called a ISR. Okay. And these ISR are basically interrupt context. Okay. Got my point? Then what is this kernel context? The kernel context is actually the core part of the OS, which is not directly accessed neither by the application program nor by the hardware. Are you getting me? Means these are the codes which is independently running, like your memory management. These people cannot access the memory management, nor your application program will access the memory management. Let's take file management, means the core code which is neither accessible to the application program nor to this is basically considered as a kernel context. Okay, that is the in this way they are segregated. Now today's class will start with just know these things so that one should not tell that hey ये तो हम लोग जानते नहीं है कोड क्या क्या है. So तीन टाइप का बेसिकली कोड हम डिवाइड करते हैं. So next comes the process management. So we know A.C is a program. So what is a process management? Means he is managing the processes. Managing the processes. Very simple definition. But what it basically says. So here managing we know English word. But this process we don't know what is this. So let's see what is a process is. So when you are writing A.C, the A.C is compiled and you are generating A.out. And once you get this A.out, you are writing ./A.out. What you did here, this itself is a program because it is an executable program. It is not a normal program. Rather, this A.C is a source code or the source program, whereas this is an executable program. And this executable program is going to run now when you make ./A.out in your terminal, or when you double click on an application program, then that executable program is going to run. And when it is going to run, they are saying it is a process. Means what is the definition they are saying? The instance of a program in execution is called process. What does it mean? ये तो बुकिश डेफिनेशन है. कैसे हमको पता चलेगा कि ये क्या है प्रोसेस? You think of a class and object. What is your definition of the object? The instance of a class is called as an object. Can you tell me what is this instance of a class?
Is there an example, or it is
Presentation.
No, I have created a class. Don't tell here example. I just want to know that what exactly you feel when somebody is saying that instance of this class A,
Representative.
and inside a int B and int C, and there is a F1 function. Okay, ऐसे लिखते हैं हम लोग.
yes, sir.
क्लास है. अभी बोलिए what this is my class, then what is an object? You are writing this A1. What does it mean, this A1?
So the A1 contains the functions and all of the properties of the class. So it
Already
is like
class
a
is there.
blueprint.
Already class has all the properties. I can say already I have written a class A. Inside this proper, this is the characteristics and this is the behavior.
Sir, what that class cannot directly interact with the.
No, I have created.
Allocated sir to class.
Oh, very nice point somebody has pointed out. That the memory has not allocated neither a memory for the B nor for the C. Without the memory for this data, is there any meaning of this B and C?
No sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Means it is simply a structure. The structure has to be filled when a memory gets created. Like you can say, I have created a class called as a human being. Then you can fill about the process. I can create a class called as a human being. What is this human being? The human being has a blood and has a skeleton or skeletons and blood. This is the characteristics of a human being. Think like this. Means inside the class, one characteristics is a blood, another characteristic is a skeleton, and another function will be there that is called as a structure of the human being. I can say that is a function. But when this frame has created, you have not created human being. You have just created a simple frame. Then when you take this frame and place it at here and put some iron as a blood, and it's the same frame you take, place it here, put some water as a blood, then you can say that this fellow is an iron man and this fellow is a water man. So what happens? Here it is only giving a frame. Unless until I have this space, I cannot put my data to this skeleton to create a real human being. In the same manner here also, even if the frame has created, one can know that it has two variables max and it has one function, but unless until for B and for C some memory gets created, there is no meaning of using this B and C, because I cannot use it. So that's specifically called as an instance. Instance means I created certain instance. When the instance will be created, when some memory will be there, then only can say that this. And it is mostly we are saying it is active, whereas this is called as a passive. In the same as.
So, but when we write a function, then the memory for that function is allocated at that time only.
Why are not more focused on the function? Because this function is basically called. For a function, there is no memory initially. Suppose I have written a main. Unless until I call the main, is there any local variables memory will be allocated?
No, sir.
No. Means the variables present inside the function is depending upon the call of the function. ऐसे भी हो सकता है. Sometimes you have written a function and your function will be never called. Yes or no? It may also happen or not. When it will happen like this, you may write scanf a. Yes, ampersand है. वो सब आप जानते हो. अगर a modulus 2 equal to 0 है, then आप f1 को कॉल करते हो. Else f2 को कॉल करते हो. Then in this scenario, f1 may be called, may not be called. It is completely depending upon what value the user has entered or not. Yes or no? If f1 is not called, do you think that it is necessary to allocate all the variables of memory location from the very beginning? Not necessary. Yes or no? So that's why you are not more focusing on the function, rather you are focusing on the characteristics. But when you create an object, for this characteristics, the memory has to be allocated. Then you can say that I created one instance. Instance means one moment. One moment means there is some existence. Existence means there is a memory. In the same manner it is happening when this a.out has created by GCC a.c. That time it is simply stored inside your hard disk. You can say, sir, it is also a memory, but that memory we are not focusing when a program is going to run. That is a dump memory, you can say. My hard disk is basically stored a lot of data. At that point, when this a.out is going to be stored inside this memory, it is specifically a data. For me, it is a data. But the moment you write down here, some instances or some memory or something must be given to these things. Then only this is going to be activated. And that instances consist of many things which involve along with this a.out to make you this become a process. Are you getting little understanding this? So this is a dump, because here inside the a.out what will be written? It will be written, some binary instructions will be written. But this binary instruction will be come to activate when some memory or some other things will be given to him. So what are the things will be given to him? I need a memory. Which memory? RAM. I need also the CPU. CPU means what? I'll give the CPU along with the registers available in the CPU. And also I'll give some other things by which you can access the outside people like your IO devices. So if these things will be given to him to edit out, then I can say I am becoming active now. If those things will be not given to him, then it is not active. Means that is basically called as an instantiation. Like here you are also giving a memory to this characteristics. In the same manner, along with the memory, you are also giving some extra things to this executable file to make itself become a process. That's why it is saying it is an instance of a program in execution is called as a process. Means this is my program. When it is going to be executed, at that moment, that instance itself is called as a process. Now the question comes, what this process consists of? Then only you can feel like yes, a program था, a अभी process हो गया. अभी पूछिए, हाँ, पूछ सकते हो.
सर ये सर एक प्रोसेस दूसरा प्रोसेस को क्रिएट करता है ना.
वो बाद में थोड़ा जाएंगे. तो सोच लीजिए कि हमारे पास कुछ भी प्रोसेस नहीं है, जीरो प्रोसेस है. पहला प्रोसेस आप क्रिएट कीजिए. ऐसे सोचिए, हाँ, अभी ऐसे ही सोचिए. कुछ नहीं था. हाँ.
Sir, it is said that memory is allocated at runtime, and then it is said memory is allocated at compile time. So what is compile time here?
Yeah. So when you are saying that during the compilation, I know that I have to allocate memory for certain variables. Is it correct or not?
Yes, sir.
कौन सा वेरिएबल के लिए आप मेमोरी बोलोगे कि मैं allocate जरूर करूंगा? Compile. बोल पाओगे?
इंटीजर.
नो इंटीजर तो डाटा टाइप है. बोलिए किस के लिए मैं कंपाइल टाइम मेमोरी नहीं दूंगा. मैं I will not give the memory. Don't think that I have allocated the memory. This allocation of the memory during the compile time just indicate that the moment the program is going to be loaded, I will definitely allocate this memory. That is saying.
So the main function.
Static variable.
Yes, very nice. Any static variable and global variable will be prior memory has to be given or not. But is there any memory will be given for the local variable? No.
No, sir.
In that manner, you can say some memory will be allocated at the compile time, some memory are allocated at the runtime. So when you go for the local variables, during the execution time, if that function is going to be called, then only I am going to allocate the memory for the local variables, otherwise not. In that way, it will be distinguished. Okay, so that will be coming during the memory management. But here says what this process now consists of. So we just know that it is a definition is instance of a program in execution, and as for the definition, you can say the program is basically the passive entity, whereas your process is becoming the active entity. And you know that if there is a single program like a.out is my executable program, the same program you can create multiple instances. So one instances will be give you one process, another instances will be give you another process, another instance give you another process. What is this instance here? The instance here nothing but you have a.out already stored in the hard disk, but I can open 3 terminals. And in each terminal, I can write ./a.out. And here also ./a.out. And here also ./a.out. So what does it mean? Now you have created basically 3 processes, but program is one. But same program, 3 instances created. Like in this case, when you are writing A1, A2, A3, I have created 3 instances of this A class, and which you are calling 3 objects. In the same manner, the same a.out, I have created 3 processes by creating 3 instances. Got my point? So this is basically called as a process. Then what is the components of a process? Very, very interesting now. Components of a process. Basically, the components of the process divided into 3 parts. One is called as the address space. Another one is called as the CPU state. Another one is called as the OS resources. What does it mean then? You can think now that these are the things should be given to my a.out, then it will become a process. You can think like this. These are the things, because it is a component of the process, means these three things should be given to this a dot out and it is becoming a process. Then what is these three things? So what is an address space? The address space simple definition says that how a process uses its own memory. ये memory कहाँ आया, फिर वो कौन है own and how it is using. Because when you create a process, all memory required for a process is not at all allocated. And please remember, in a 32-bit machine, the total memory to be allocated for a process will be 2 to the power 32. Means it is a 4 GB. Means if you have created 3 instances, the operating system says that I am eligible enough to give you how much memory? 4 GB, 4 GB, 4 GB, 12 GB. Means think, if there is 100 processes running inside your system and you are using a 32-bit machine, then 4000 or 400 GB of RAM, the operating system is assuring that I will give you 4000 GB of memory. But do you have a 400 or 4000 GB of memory? I have only 16 GB memory. Last class I asked that what is your RAM size? Somebody told it is a 16 GB RAM. But how this 16 GB RAM can be allocated for this 4 GB? If it is allocated, sorry, how this 16 GB RAM will be allocated for this 400 GB? This 400 GB cannot be fit into a 16 GB. Means whatever the address space, now you are thinking that is not the actual memory. Rather, it looks like a virtual memory. Means what? If when a process gets created, if your operating system prepare a sheet and he will say, I will keep 0 to 1 GB is my some code. 1 to 1.5 GB some data. Then 1.5 to 3 GB some malak. And 3 GB to 4 GB some other kind of data. He has just written like this. But till now, there is no such memory currently allocated for him. Are you getting my point? What this address space? In your mind, are you thinking? The address space means how a process uses its own memory, or how a process feels how its memory look like. He feels that my data code will be present from the 0 to 1 GB, 1 GB to 1.5 GB will be some data, 1.5 GB to 3 GB something, and this thing should be this thing. He just feels like this. But actually, this kind of memory is not at all allocated. Then when it is allocated, whenever any code is going to be executed, or whenever any data is going to be stored or executed for that program, that time the operating system find out whether my physical memory or the RAM is available for storing this data part or not. If it is available, store this data and tell to the CPU that you please execute his data. Means he is not allocate the whole memory at a time to a process. Rather, he feels like this, I have this much memory. Whenever anything is going to be executed, for that part, I will definitely allocate a memory. Like you say, think about your Gmail account. The Gmail account says that your drive, you can store 25 GB for each user. There is a crores of users for the Gmail account. If there is a 10 crores people are joined in the Gmail, do you think that there is a 25 crores GB is available with the Gmail or the Google? May not be. May not be. Why? It is usually not. And how he feels? He knows that even if I am saying that I will give you 25 GB, all users are not going to use this 25 GB at a time. Somebody may keep only 1 GB, somebody may keep 22 GB, somebody may keep 16 GB of RAM. So if you combine everything, then it will not that much, that is a 2000 GB or 25 crores 1000 GB something is required. With a less amount of a memory, he can manage, but still he is assuring that I can give you 25 GB max. In the same manner, your operating system is assuring him that I will give you 4 GB if you need, but currently I will not give you. If you need something, I can go up to 4 GB. Yes, that becomes an address space. That's why he feels like an address space. Then how this address space will be distributed, or how this memory for this address space look like? The memory for this address space will be divided into 4 parts. One is called as the code segment. One is called as the data segment. One is called as the heap segment. And another one is called start segment. Yes. So when one program gets created, for this program, the operating system divide this program into such 4 parts. And what is this code segment? Since your A.out must consist of a certain line of instructions, and this is my actual code, that code will be placed here in the code segment. Now tell me, can your code segment size has to be changed or always fixed throughout the program? One by one.
So it should be changed because the set of instructions can vary throughout the program according to the question.
No, during the program execution, can your number of instruction present inside the code is going to be changed or fixed?
No.
No.
Fixed.
Fixed. Yes. The code segment will be a fixed size. Accepted? First means
But that upper limit should be fixed now for that code segment, whatever be the size of the code.
देखिए, कभी भी आपका कोड सेगमेंट का साइज 4 GB हो सकता है?
नहीं सर,
नहीं सर,
कम है बहुत चांसेस.
कभी नहीं हो पाएगा, इसलिए वो फिक्स भी नहीं किया ज्यादातर. ओके, कभी भी नहीं होगा. 4 GB सोचिए, कभी 4 GB कभी नहीं लिख पाएंगे. Next code segment. So ये है fix. Then what is a data segment? So when you declare a variable, let's say I declare a equal to 5. Then I declare f1, and inside the f1 I'll declare a static b. Then I'll declare int main, and inside the int main I'll declare a int c. And these are the instructions. So I told the whole instruction is going to be somehow stored here. Then what is the data? The data segment keeps all global and static variables. So which are the global? A and B are stored here. Means if you have only 2 variables, one global and one static, means my data segment size will be 8. Accepted? समझ में आया क्या क्या? Only the global and static, and this is local static. There is also a global static, everybody knows. Yes, either this is a global or local static, both will be stored here. Yes, and what is the heap segment? The heap segment is basically the dynamic. हाँ, बोल पाओगे? सुन रहा हूँ. हाँ.
So D will be stored as global or static?
D will be stored as a static global. दोनों चीज है ना, एक static global है, एक normal global है. कोई बोल पाओगे what is the difference between a static global and normal global?
Sir, in the static global, we can make it accessible to other files also.
Static global ना general global में.
तो स्टैटिक ग्लोबल इनिशिएट 0 हो जाएगा वैल्यू.
हाँ, क्या होगा?
वैल्यू 0 हो जाएगा सर कंपाइल टाइम में. स्टैटिक
This is also and this is become 0 because every global and static variable as per the C programming language it is initialized to 0. I ask, somebody has written a int a, somebody has written a int d. D and A are global or not?
Sir, the scope of that accessing of that in the local is local only, that static local. And in that global one, we can access in main also, but not that B in the main function.
बोलिए डी एंड ए का क्या डिफरेंस होता है? ए तो समझ में आ गया कि बी F1 के अंदर है, सो बी स्कोप इज ओनली इनसाइड दिस. व्हाट अबाउट दिस डी एंड ए?
सर डी का स्कोप F1 के अंदर थोड़ी होगा.
डी का स्कोप इज ओनली इनसाइड द सेम फाइल. You cannot access this D outside of the file. Means if this is a program A.C and there is a program B.C, I cannot access this D in the B.C, but I can access this A in B.C with the help of extern. एक extern कीवर्ड पढ़े थे ना, static extern पढ़े थे ना. Through this extern I can access this global, but through extern I cannot access this global, because it is my static global. So that is the difference. And both static global, general global, and static local will be stored in this data segment. And heap segment will be used for all dynamic memory allocation through malloc, calloc, whatever you are allocating now, that has to be done through this. And this stack segment is basically used for the function calls and local variables. Yes, so C is my local variable, which is basically created here. But please remember, this C will be not called unless until, not created unless until you call the main. When the main will be called, then after the C, for C the memory will be allocated. But for this A, B and D, the memory will be allocated when the program is going to be loaded. When we are writing ./a.out, the same moment for A, for B, and for D, the memory gets allocated, because the data segment size is also fixed size. But your heap and stack are not of fixed size. What is the reason? You know that the dynamic memory allocation says that depending upon the user's demand, I can write malloc something. Yes or no? So depending upon my user's request, I'll allocate that much memory. So heap will be allocated that time. And how the function call will be, how the stack will be grow? The stack will be grow when you are calling like this. Suppose main is calling F1 and F1 is calling this F2 and F2 is my last function. Then if main starts executing inside my stack area, first main gets entered. And it's all local variables. Then from this main, you call this F1. Then F1 gets called. Still your main is present in the stack. Then for F1, the memory gets allocated. Then when F1 calls F2, then F2 is again called. And these things are currently active. What is this active here? The active means these are the three functions currently present in the stack. Okay, these are the three functions currently present in the stack. That's why it is called as an activation record. The stack is basically called as an activation record, are present. But among this activation record, few of them are currently executing and few are not executing. So which one is currently executing? Your F2. Because F2. Once the F2 will be completed, you are saying you return back to this place. Means what? Once it is completed, your stack is now going to be shrink. Then F1 is active, F1 is executed. But main is currently active, but main is not executed. And once the main will be also completed, then main will be completed. Now this main is becoming active and as well as executed. So depending upon my function call, my stack is gradually growing. Like in a recursive call, when you are making factor of 5 and inside this you are calling a factor of n-1, then gradually there are 5 facts are active at the same time. Yes or no? When factor 5 calls factor 4, factor 4 calls factor 3, 3 calls 2, 2 calls 1, means fact 5, fact 3, fact 4, fact 1, all are become active. But among this active, one gets executed, another is not executed. That's the reason your stack segment and heap segment will be gradually growing and shrinking depending upon the user's requirement, whereas this global variables, static variables, and the code segment is becoming fixed.
Sir,
Understand? Yes.
sir, but that static segment should have a maximum size, na?
Why it is a maximum size again? Why it is a maximum size? You can know that you can say that you can. It will never cross 4 GB also or 3 GB also. कभी ऐसे हो सकता है हम लोग लिखेंगे ग्लोबल वेरिएबल 3 GB का?
No, sir.
सो इसलिए इसका भी मैक्सिमम नहीं करेंगे.
Sir, why?
Suppose using the free function, we free the variable a, which is global.
Using the free function, can you free this global variable?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. Only by free function you can free the memory allocated through dynamic memory. Yes or no? कभी हम ऐसे नॉर्मल वेरिएबल को फ्री कर पाएंगे थ्रू ए फ्री फंक्शन? कभी नहीं.
No, sir. Error देगा.
एरर देगा कभी नहीं. वो जो फ्री करेगा ना, आप जो फ्री बोल रहे हैं वो आप सही बोल रहे हैं. सपोज आई कैन डिक्लेयर ए ग्लोबल वेरिएबल लाइक दिस int स्टार a. ठीक है ना? आप बोल रहे हो कि सर मैं मेन कर लिया एंड मेन के अंदर मैं a लिख दिया a मालक and 10. Then what it does? What it basically does? Can anybody tell me now? This a is a global.
सर उसको पॉइंट करेगा, इसमें हीप में जाएगा, मेमोरी स्टोर पॉइंटिंग करेगा.
स्लाइड का वो कहां पर एलोकेट हुआ है? यहाँ पे. ठीक है नहीं? Then when you are making free a here, are you freeing this or are you freeing this? You are freeing this. Still a is exist because a size is what? Currently a size is nothing but 4 bytes because a is simply a pointer. A pointer can keep an address. Address अगर 4 byte है, he is only keeping 4 bytes or not. But actually, this 4 byte address is pointing to a 10 bytes memory. That 10 bytes is created in the heap area. ठीक है ना? समझ पाए?
Sir, why global variable have a use size than local variable?
Why the global variable has?
Use size means like we can store maximum values.
No, not maximum value. You can ask the question like this: why the global variable are stored separately as compared to the local variables? वही आपका क्वेश्चन. थोड़ा मैं क्वेश्चन समझ नहीं पाया, इसलिए बता नहीं पाया.
मतलब सर जैसे हम लोग int m लिखते हैं तो बहुत बार जब हम लोग कोड करते हैं तो जैसे int का एक रेंज होता है जिसके बाद वो ये लार्ज वैल्यू स्टोर नहीं कर पाता, पर ग्लोबल वेरिएबल में हम लोग ये इन लोकल वेरिएबल में जो ये इंटीजर डिक्लेयर किया उससे ज्यादा वैल्यू मैक्सिमम वैल्यू स्टोर कर पाते हैं.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं, ऐसा कुछ वो रॉन्ग कॉन्सेप्ट है. क्यों बोलो? सपोज आई एम डिक्लेयरिंग ए इंट t, इस t का जितना साइज होगा, इफ आई एम राइटिंग ए इंट s का क्या अलग साइज होगा?
No, sir.
No, sir.
If it is 4 byte, this is also 4 byte. If it is a 4 byte, I can store the range from the 0 to 2 to the power 32 minus 1. Here also I can store 0 to 2 to the power 32 minus 1. कहां पर चेंज हो गया? साइज कभी नहीं हुआ. वैसे नहीं हो पाएगा. Yes, because the memory given for this t and s will be same. Then how you can say that ज्यादा वेरिएबल यहां रख पाएंगे? वहां नहीं. वो कंसेप्ट गलत है. हाँ? ठीक है ना? But one thing you can say, why they have segregated into 2 parts? Why not they have kept it here? Because your global and static variable is usually allocated to the outside. Global variables are basically access to the outside. Since it is access to the outside, even if your code is not accessing this global, other fellow can also access. That's why global has to be initially created. It is one reason. Another reason is that this global variable is accessible to every function present inside the program. That's why it is prior to execution, it is allocated. But in case of local, as you have discussed, unless until that corresponding function is called, this local variable has no use. So that's why you no need to allocate a local variable prior to calling that function. That's the reason they have segregated it. Understood? Now, one more interesting part. This data segment is again divided into two different parts. Okay, the data segment. So what is this part? So your whole data segment, if it is my data segment, then this is divided into two parts. So one part is called as the initialized data. And another one is called as uninitialized data. What does it mean? What is the initialized data and uninitialized data? Means in this example, this is your initialized data. And this are uninitialized data. Why? Because I have not written equal to 0. I have not written equal to 0. If I write here equal to 5, then it is also initialized. But this is not initialized. Means few global variable may be directly initialized, or maybe prior to this, the user has initialized. If the user has initialized, it is comes under the initialized data. If user has not initialized, we know that every global and static variable will be default initialized to 0. That is called as uninitialized data. And that what he has done, he has segregated this into two parts. Means as for this figure, A and B will be kept at this place, and D is going to be kept at this place. Now you can ask that why he has done this kind of things again. ये भी तो एक ग्लोबल है, एक स्टैटिक है, यहाँ पर भी एक स्टैटिक है, बट ये इनिशियलाइज नहीं हुआ था, ये इनिशियलाइज हो गया था. Then what is the reason of segregating into two parts? Very interesting point I have find out. As for your C program is concerned, every global variable or local variable must be initialized if it has not prior initialized. Correct or not?
Yes.
Yes or no? Yes. When the program is going to be loaded, all the initialized values to be or uninitialized value to be set to be 0 or not? होना चाहिए कि नहीं? होना चाहिए? Yes. Think now. If you have a 10 variables, A1, A2, A3, A4, like this, A10, and from this A1 to A3 have already initialized. A1 में 5 user ने बोला है, यहाँ पे 3, यहाँ पे 6. Then A4 to A10 has not yet initialized. है कि नहीं? नहीं हुआ है? Then what the user has to, what the program has to be do? When the program is going to be loaded, that time from A1 to A10, each individual one has to be set to 0, set to 0, set to 0, like this or not? करेगा कि नहीं? Is it correct or not? When the program is going to be loaded, all such 7 variables has to be initialized separately. But what is the benefit here? Here the benefit is he has kept A1, A2, A3 here, but he has kept A4 to A10 here. Then A4 to A10, what is the total size? What is the total size? 28 bytes. Agar each one become an integer, then the integer is 4 byte. 4 into 7 becomes 28 byte or not? If he knows that this uninitialized area of 28 byte, there is a function called as a memset. What is the memset's work? You give the starting address and you say that what to fill and how many bytes you want to fill. Then automatically it will fill the 0 in 28 bytes. Then in this scenario, do you need to check which variable is initialized and which variable is not initialized? Or he just know that my uninitialized statement start at a 200 location. So he told from 200 location till 28 byte, you directly fill with 0. But if you don't divide into these things, if you have a single thing, then he has to be searched out of 10 global variables, which one is initialized, which one is not initialized. Whichever is not initialized, he has to be explicitly send the 0 to that variable or not. So to avoid these difficulties, that's why they have segregated this data segment into two parts. One is called as the initialized, another one is called the non-initialized data segment. Okay, so in this way, your whole address space is divided into these 4 parts. सबको समझ में आया क्या क्या बताया? Yes. So there is a code segment which is a fixed size, data segment which will keep the global and static, but this data segment will be divided into 2 parts. One part is uninitialized data, another part is initialized data. And this uninitialized data segment is also called as a BSS segment. Today, you please look into what is the full form of this. Yes, this is called as a BSS segment, and this is directly called as initialized data segment. And then comes the heap, and then comes the stack. But please remember, heap segment and the stack segment has no fixed size, whereas your data and the code segment is becoming a fixed size. Since this is fixed and this is not fixed, that's why they're saying always your heap segment and stack segment is grows in a reverse direction. Are you guessing why it is like this? Because if the total size will be become 100, if both will be grow in the same direction, then some memory misutilization will happen. Why? Because if I'm considering this is my whole area for the data, stack and heap, so and if it is growing in same direction, then definitely I have to fix a line that from here onwards very Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Up to what extent I have told? This one I told?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So why it is in a reverse direction? The reverse direction because if it is in the same direction, then I have to fix a size. इसका suppose 80 bytes है, इसका 20 bytes है. But even if I fix it, suppose during the execution, my number of functions calls are very less, or the local variables are very less. Only we occupy 20 bytes. Then rest 60 bytes are not used. But in that scenario, if heap demands something more than 20 bytes, then I could not able to give it because you have a predefined the size of the heap and stack. But if in that other case, if I grow the stack in this way and grow the heap in this particular way, even if my stack is used very little, then my heap is growing up to this. So that's the reason the stack and heap segment goes in a 2 different directions. So this is basically called as the address space. So address space is nothing but the temporary memory which a process fills. Yes, tell me.
Sir, in this, so the implementation wise, sir, the stack will decrease in the address and heap will increase in the address.
Very nice, very nice. If I start it at 0 and if it is become 100 in during the implementation, while pushing it will be minus minus. While popping it should be plus plus. Correct.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that's correct. Yes. So another next part is next component is the CPU state.
What doubt related to memset?
What?
Sir, I have a doubt related to memset.
Why not? Ask.
Sir, why does memset behaves ambiguously sometimes?
Why the mindset?
Behaves ambiguously. Sir, sometimes we cannot predict what will it store. Suppose if I want to store 3 or 4 in every element, so if I use memset for that, it sometimes does not work properly.
Sometimes not working means when, if you can tell me, I'll give a hint.
Sir, for values like 0 and -1, it does work, but for other values, except for 0 and -1, it sometimes behaves weird.
That you are predicting like this. Suppose you have given a 28 bytes, but this will be considered as a what?
So
2 byte,
1 byte.
4 byte. Are you getting my point? What I told? I told that you are considering this. You, from our point of view, that is making an error. The mem set is not creating an error. The mem set is saying that if my 0 is represented with 1 byte, then in each byte I am going to store 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. But if I am writing your -1, and I am thinking that the -1 will be represented with a 1 byte or 4 byte.
1 byte.
If it is 1 byte, that you don't know also. If it is a 1 byte, then it will be stored. How the -1 represent? Anybody? How the -1 represented in 1 byte? Is it correct?
And the last one.
It is?
All the bits are
MSP will
set
be
in
minus.
-1.
MSP will be 1, sir.
Yes, sir. MSB 1.
No. What do you mean?
All the bits are set, sir, in -1.
In the -1, it will be, it is 1. Then -1 क्या होगा? इसका 2's complement.
2 complement.
1 as it is, and the rest will be
1
interchanged.
1 1. Oh.
So if you keep like this, then you are thinking something, but ultimately the result will be go in a different manner or not. If somebody will think that it is a 1 byte each, and another person think that it will become 4 bytes. In that way, our value gets changed. But otherwise, the mem set is not creating a problem here.
Sir, so how to create that thing?
How to create what you want to set?
Yes,
What
sir.
you want to set you are saying? You have to
There
only
is 2.
you have to only check what is the value this parameter takes. If it is takes 4 byte, you have to think what you should write here so that your 4 byte will be accommodate your requirement. If it is occupying 1 byte, then you have to think of, because if I am thinking it is a 1 byte, then अगर इसको 3 रखूंगा, 3 suppose लिखा, then 1 byte का 3 कैसे होगा? So 1 1 0 0 0 0.
0.
If it is filled with 28 byte, each byte will be like this. But if I am considering it is become 4 bytes, then this is not 3. There are another 24 zeros are present.
Yes.
Which will be, which creates a problem. The mem set will never create a problem. Okay. Now come to CPU. So what is a CPU stack? The CPU stack basically says that all the registers associated with a process is called as the CPU state of the process. Is called CPU state of the process. What is the meaning? What are the, then what is this registers used and why it is used? There are very few basic registers are there, like a program counter. This is called as a program counter. Instruction pointer. Yes, start segment register. Like this, there are few registers are there. Along with this, there are some general purpose registers are there. Register like AX, BX, CX, DX. These are useful while you are making some computation. But this PC and IP plays a very important role. Like last class I told, hopefully our start segment register will be remembered that if this is my whole address space, if only currently 20 bytes get stored and your address starts at 100, means currently your stack pointer pointing to 80. Because the address of this location is remembered by my stack pointer. But what is this PC and IP? The program counter is always pointing to the instruction which is going to be executed next. Means what? If these are the 3 instructions, currently this instruction I'm executing, your PC will be pointing to this one. Means the moment this instruction gets over, the CPU will be looking to the PC and start executing this PC. And when the CPU start executing this PC, my next PC will be come to this one. So that's why the program counter says that it will remember the which instruction will be going to be executed next. Like instruction pointer, this is also one kind of register which will keep that which instruction is currently executed. So all such register is remembering when a program gets executed, that program's related things will be kept inside this. The moment the CPU changes from one program to another program, immediately your register gets changed. Means what happens here? Suppose I am writing a equal to 3 plus 5. How it is written? It is written that move 3 to x, add x comma 5, then move x comma a. Similarly, you can say there is one more program. He is saying that is b equal to 9 plus 6. He has also written like this: move 9 comma x, then add this x comma 6, then move x comma b. What is the meaning of this? Always when you compute two numericals here, addition, first you move this 9 to the register, that register value and a new integer value gets added and store it in the same accumulated register x, and that result of the x will be now moved to the b. The same thing is happening here. Then what is the place of your CPU state? What the process has to be remembered as a CPU state? The reason is that, let's say this program is currently executed by the CPU. At that time, your CPU has all the register. He has a PC, he has a IP, he has a AX, he has a BX, he has a CX, DX and a CX like this. Currently, the AX of this CPU keeps what? 3? Yes or no? Suppose after this line gets executed, your quantum time is over. We studied a time-saving operating system.
Yes,
The
sir.
time-saving operating
To the next one.
then the CPU has to be moved to the next. When the CPU is moved to the next, do you think that when it will be again returned back, this statement will be again start executing, or it has to be executed from here?
From where it has ended.
When
So
it is-
next one.
it has to be started from here. If it is started from here, this X needs which value? 3 value or not?
Yes, sir.
To compute these things. But when it is shifting from here to here, the 9 has a store in the X. And suppose after this, the context switching is happening. The CPU changed to this. Then what is currently present in the X? 9.
9.
And this 9 will be added with the 5, or 3 has to be added with the 5.
3 is to be.
How it is happening? He's saying the moment this particular context switching is happening, means the CPU changes from this process to this process, all the registers value corresponding to this process has to be saved in my area or not? Accepted or not? Like last class, I think I told, or I told to somebody, some other people, suppose I have a bucket. This is my CPU. This is my register where the geyser, you are putting the geyser, and in the geyser some hot water is making. Suppose this P1 program is putting the water, then hot water is taking, and the P2 program is also putting the water and hot water is taking. Suppose you are staying in a hostel. But since the two persons try to use the same geyser, then the hostel authority told that you can maximum use for 2 minutes. One student can use this geyser maximum for 2 minutes, not more than that. Then what he has to do? He has his data. This data is now put it to here, means water is put it here. After 2 minutes, whatever the water has hot now, whether you will throw this water and this P2 will keep, or it is better to keep this little hot water in its own bucket. So that own bucket. So the next time when you will get a chance, the same hot water, the little hot water, if it pour it here, then water will be little more hot or not after next 2 minutes. Am I correct or not?
Yes,
In the
sir.
same thing is happening. The CPU is this one. Now you are keeping the data in the CPU's register. The moment CPU change from your place to other place, this AX, BX, CX, whatever the CPU keeps, this data will be stored inside my area, that is inside the address space. Yes, where? In which area of the address space? In the stack. So what it does, in the stack of my program, he has kept all these values. कैसे रखेगा? वो just रखेगा. X का value 3 था, BX का value 10 था, PC का value 5 था. ऐसे हो गया था. Suppose 5 is this. Then when it will return back from here, when the CPU again change from this place to this place, what it does, जो वैल्यू AX, BX, PC में था ना, वो एग्जैक्टली यहां से लेके यहां डाल देगा. तो इस X3 लिखा गया था, 3 को लेके इस रजिस्टर X में डाल देगा. PC5 लिखा गया था, 5 को लेके यहां पर डाल देगा. When PC will be loaded with the 5, then it will be start from this instruction, or it will be start from the previous instruction. This instruction. Are you getting my point? So this information is itself is called as the CPU state. समझ में आया? क्या बोला? Are you getting my point? Yes, the registers associated with the processes are basically called as the CPU states. Means the value present in those registers associated with a particular process are basically called as the CPU state. Okay, so if you have understood, next class हम पढ़ेंगे बस another one component. One is called as OS resources. फिर कल शुरू करेंगे next class में how to create our own process through programming. हाँ बोलिए.
सर ये स्टैक में सेव करता है जो प्रोसेस बनाए हम लोग.
पूरा सेव करता है. कैसे करता है पता है ना? इसको क्या करता है, एक पुश बोल के कमांड है. वो क्या करेगा, पुश लिख देगा तो all the register जो होगा ना, it will be pushed into the stack. Yes, जितना भी रजिस्टर. ऐसे हो सकता है आप बोलोगे सर सब रजिस्टर तो यूज नहीं हुआ होगा एक टाइम पे. हाँ ऐसे भी हो सकता है. Then but he is keeping all registers value. The moment again he will get a chance to executed by the CPU, all the registers value stored here again popped and push it here. Okay.
Yes,
so
sir, got it.
A push and pop operation.
Sir, but if the quantum time is 2 nanosecond or something like that, sir, then if we are wasting our time in that saving and receiving, then sir some time is wasted na in that process only.
मैं अभी ताली मार रहा हूँ खुद को. क्यों बोल रहा हूँ? क्यों? बहुत अच्छी तरह से बोले. अगर बोल दिए कि क्वांटम टाइम बहुत कम कर दिए तो क्या हो जाएगा? एग्जीक्यूशन कम होगा, बाहर का काम ज्यादा होगा. ठीक है नहीं?
Yes, sir.
That is also a point. Nice point. Others, you understood now what he has told? Because if I am saying work I am doing less, but बाहर का काम बहुत ज्यादा कर रहा हूँ, मतलब लोडिंग अनलोडिंग बहुत ज्यादा कर रहा हूँ, एग्जीक्यूशन काम बहुत कर रहा हूँ, इसलिए मेरा सीपीयू यूटिलाइजेशन मतलब माय थ्रूपुट इज बिकमिंग लेस. थ्रूपुट इसमें कम हो जाएगा कि नहीं? मैं काम कम कर रहा हूँ, बात बहुत कर रहा हूँ. So in this scenario, my the output will be not out proper नहीं है. The speed of the output gets reduced. That is we are basically called as the throughput. Yes, the throughput gets reduced if it is happening. So उसके लिए भी पढ़ेंगे. हाँ? So वो भी बहुत अच्छा criteria. Means if my context switching will be more, my throughput gets reduced. Context switching मतलब क्या है? बाद में भी पढ़ेंगे. Context switching मतलब the CPU is changing from one process to another process. That is called as the switching the context. So this is my current context. Now the CPU is going to this, means he is receiving the another context. Okay, this much today, huh?
Sir, if mem set the value 0 for uninitialized variable, then how the variables get garbage value?
Which one? Though global variable never gets a garbage value, no? Local variable gets a garbage. Local variable के लिए mem set नहीं, है कि नहीं? Only global data segment के लिए. Fine. I'm ending now. Huh?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.